So let's have a look now at an example force field analysis. So we went through this earlier to explain the general idea behind this. So it's a common change management approach used to help implement change. The idea behind this is situations are maintained by an equilibrium or a balance between driving and restraining forces. So driving forces need to be strengthened or restraining forces need to be weakened for the situation to shift and the change to occur successfully. So this change management technique is all about maximizing the likelihood that the change will be successful, because you're helping the business to identify any obstacles and before implementing the change, actually manage and reduce those issues. So when the change is implemented, those issues don't exist anymore. So our example here is Avon, and we'll get to that shortly. But first of all, let's just do a refresher of the different steps that are involved. So determining the change, then brainstorming the driving and restraining forces. So the change is what you put in the middle section of your force field analysis. And then the driving and restraining forces are what you put on either side, in these sort of arrows that are moving towards the change. They're having an impact on the change. That's what the arrows are representing. Next, in step 4, you're evaluating those driving and restraining forces that you've come up with. And you're doing that by assigning the scores from 1 to 5, depending on how influential those forces are. Then you're creating a strategy to strengthen the driving forces or weaken the restraining forces, and then creating a list of steps to achieve that desired outcome, to implement that strategy you've come up with. So this Avon example that we've got here shows that the driving forces outweigh the restraining forces. So the change example we've got here is Avon changing its business model by discontinuing door-to-door sales in favor of online sales methods. So some driving forces, for example, we've got the need to have an online presence to remain competitive. So competition is a huge driver of change in this example, because while Avon was successful back in its time using that door-to-door method, because changes happened in society, that no longer was going to be sustainable and it wasn't keeping up with competition. So a common sort of thing from back when this first started was that women didn't work as much as they do now, and often women used to be stay-at-home mums and things like that, and would be able to answer the door for an Avon sales representative. But now in today's society, we have more equality between men and women, more women in the workforce, and so that is going to mean that that door-to-door method won't be so effective. We've got consumer demand for e-commerce and convenience. They want to be able to buy things when they want them, rather than relying on sales representatives coming to their door. We've got the idea that just being approached by a stranger at your door is maybe not something that we value so much in society today. A lot of people would be uncomfortable with that. Safety considerations and those sorts of things as well. Another driving force is just the expenses. Having transport and that idea of a physical person going somewhere to get sales would be expensive, and having just an online store would be far more cost effective. But then on the other hand, there are restraining forces as well. You do need technology to help make that change happen, and so there is a cost to implement that technology. Losing the point of difference, Avon was different because of its door-to-door method. So the business would need to think about how to position itself as being unique in the market to continue to attract people. Sales representatives would be redundant as a result of this change, and that's something that the business would need to consider and manage to make sure that it has good relationships still with existing employees, people who are going to continue to work in the business, and also those who are leaving the organization. Lots of close relationships as well between Avon and customers. So Avon was able to form those close connections because of working face to face with people in that physical environment, and they would lose that as a result of this change. So you can see here that we've assigned different numbers to represent the influence of each force. And be aware that this isn't something that's going to be a matter of right and wrong. So I've assigned these different ones different numbers, but you may choose something slightly different. So the cost of implementing new technologies, you may think that that's a bit more influential and give it a 2 or a 3. You may think that the sales representatives being redundant is less influential and only should be a 3 or a 2. Basically, what you decide just needs to be reasonable and justifiable. So just give it some thought and be logical in the scores that you give. So based on this analysis, Avon would be able to formulate some strategies to ensure that it successfully implements this change. So we can see here that the driving forces are outweighing the restraining forces, which suggests that it is a good change to implement, and the business just needs to figure out the best way to approach it. So they may try to further weaken the restraining forces before moving forward. So maybe it will try and establish a new point of difference and try and think about how to offer sales representatives new roles in the business so it can keep that corporate culture alive.